Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, the record stopped.
Yes.
The recording stopped, ma'am.
I again started recording.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Actually, last Sunday I shifted my home. So the entire setup is different, lighting arrangement, network, everything is different. So today is my first class, so I really don't know how it is going to come out. So based on today's class only, I have to make any changes in the setup. Okay. So let us start with the problem solving. I think Jyotsna ma'am has covered the theoretical topics regarding the neural networks basics, introduction, day 1, day 2, day 3, all the slides she has covered, and she has shared those slides to you. So today I will start with the problem solving approach for the same topic. Okay. So let us start with a simple one.
Ma'am, we can't see what you're writing. It's little above the camera.
I just wrote only the date. I just wrote only the date. I'll start writing from here. Can you see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
First node is not seen, ma'am. That's it.
Pardon me?
The
X1 is not visible, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. X1 is not visible. X2, X3 is visible.
Okay. Okay.
Use fit to frame option. It is visible in the fit to frame option.
You can fit you can pin it and fit to the frame and see.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible, ma'am. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes.
Because I have done the setup. Once if I change the webcam and the tripod setup, I've made it like that. So I think this was discussed in the earlier lecture, I think. So for a neural network, you will be having input layer and then some hidden layers and then an output layer. So whenever a neuron accepts input, the input is actually multiplied by some weight factor. The purpose of the weight factor is how much importance we are giving to that particular input. Suppose if I have only two inputs, x1 and x2, then here I have drawn 3. Suppose if I have only x1 and x2, then I can draw x1 here and x2 here. Then I can separate the response of this neural network based on the inputs. So if I have two inputs, the responses I can separate using a line like this, a linear separator line. Now, if I have 3 inputs, then I have to use the third dimension, the z-axis also. In that case, I have to use a plane. Okay. So, when the number of input increases, then the separator becomes, instead of a line, it becomes a plane, a hyperplane, etc. and it goes on. Okay. And then the weight also will vary from 0 to 1. Sometimes it can be 0, it can be 1, or it can be from 0 to 1 also. So here, what is the purpose of this weight? I will explain. It depends on how much importance we are giving. I think in the earlier one of the classes, I have given an example. If I want to choose a job, then for which input factor I will give more importance, whether it is based on the distance or is it based on the salary or the comfort that I get, so on, depends on how I prefer, which I prefer, salary or distance or workplace comfort or ambience or whatever. So depends on those factors, I will be considering the inputs. Suppose if this is my salary and this is my distance to be traveled and this is the working project that I get comfort to work with, or where I can learn more and then explore my knowledge. In that sense, I give that as the third input. So for each inputs, I will give a weight. So this weight need not be always equal to 1. Each weight is independent of each other. So I give 0.8, 0.5 and 0.4. Then it depends on what value I get. Okay. So now my input will be multiplied by this. Similarly, this input and this input will be multiplied by this, and then you have a sum value. And then this sum value will should give me an output, isn't it? It should give me a response. So that output is also called as a response. So this response depends on some function that we need to apply on the input. So what is that function? So the function that should give me an output will be called as an activation function. Actually, without the activation function also it will give an input, but basically the activation function is something like a push or an energy booster which actually increases your response so that the neural network can give a precise output. Usually it gives an approximation output. Maybe by an activation function we can make it to get a precise output. Okay. And then to this we also give a bias. And this bias input is usually 1, weight also we usually take it as 1. It can be 0 or -1, whatever, but generally we prefer 1 or -1. It is something similar to your y equal to mx plus b, that straight line, or C, the y-intercept. So this B and this B is similar, you can assume. So basically what happens is, this is considered to be like energy booster, or like it will either excite the output or it will inhibit the output. That means the neural network response, we call it as excitatory or inhibitory. Okay, that means excitatory means you will get a positive response. Inhibitory means it will give a negative response. Okay, so if bias is 1, it will actually energize the network to give a positive response. If this B is -1, then it will give a negative response. It will try to pull down the total output of the network. So that is the difference. Now, this activation function, there are several types: linear, non-linear activation functions. In case of linear, you have binary, bipolar, ramp, etc. And in case of non-linear, you have sigmoid and binary sigmoid and bipolar sigmoid, etc. And also you would have studied about ReLU activation function in day 3 slide. You would have discussed it earlier, yesterday's class. So today, first let us try to see how to find the output using a simple network like this. Then we'll go for the network which was developed in the earlier in 1943. There is a McClellan-Pitts neuron. It is commonly called as MP neuron. That was the earlier neural architecture. So, and then we will see how a neural network can solve an AND or model XR and or etc. How it can be solvable using a linear separable line. So we'll just discuss that today. And then we have to continue with Hep's neural network. And basically this neural network, it also learns every time when you give an input, the neural network gives an output. Suppose if you are not happy or not satisfied with the expected output, or if the neural network finds that if you follow supervised learning approach, we give the target also. So if the target and then what is the output that it is giving, if both are not matching, then the neural network understands that there is an error. That means it has to correct the error part of it, and then it has to reiterate once again and then to give the correct output. So when in the process of reiteration, it should not change the input. To get the target, we should not change the input. We should only change the weights. Okay. So how much weight has to be changed to get the targeted output? So that part happens during the learning. And then there is a learning parameter that makes the network to learn faster or slower or at an optimum pace. Okay. So I think in the earlier day 2 slide, there is a slide which will give you all the parameters: momentum factor, learning rate. The learning rate is usually not set to a higher learning rate. If the learning rate is high, then the network will be oscillating. It will not learn correctly. It may only try to go fast instead of learning at a proper rate to give the correct output. And if the learning rate is slow, then a small value, then the network will learn slow. The convergence will be very, very slow. So we need to find an optimum learning rate so that the network learns at a proper speed, and also it should give a correct output. So these are the certain intricacies or the nuances in how to set up a neural network architecture. Okay. So now let us take a simple example and then we go for the MP neuron. Suppose I give the input for this x1, x2 and x3, we can give inputs, say for example, I can give 0.4 or 0.5, 0.6, and the weight is 0.8, 0.5 and then 0.4, and this b is 1. So as per the equation of the line, the y in is equal to b plus sigma xi into wi, where I runs from 1 to n, number of inputs. So here the b is 1, so 1 plus xi into wi, so 0.4 into 0.8 plus 0.5 into 0.5 plus 0.6 into 0.4. So you can calculate and tell me what is the y in, and then we can use f of y in, say a binary sigmoid function. Binary sigmoid is 1 by 1 plus e raised to minus y in. So that will be 1 by 1 plus e raised to minus the value of this. Are you getting 1.81?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can one of you tell me the answer for this? 1 by 1 plus e raised to minus 1.81.
Point 85.
Point
85.
85. Okay. In a similar way, if you change the activation function, we will be getting different values. So here I have taken the decimal values for the inputs and also for the weights. We can change the weights to be always ones or minus one, depends on what we are going to implement. Okay, so it depends on your problem statement, what you want to give as an input and what output you are expecting. So this is a simpler method to calculate the output. So now let us go for the MP neuron model. The MP neuron model will not have any bias. In the MP neuron model, we will have excitatory weights and inhibitory weights. As you can see in the slides, you will be. Can you just take the day 2 slides? You can check. Can you open day 2 slides and keep it? I can tell you the slide number. Yeah, it starts from the slide number 63 onwards. Yeah, so here certain weights are called as W. If I write, it is called as excitatory weights. If I write minus P, then it means the inhibitory weights. Say if I have one more and this is minus P. Suppose I have one more input, say X5, and this is W. I have more of the excitatory weights and less inhibitory weights. This MP neuron will fire, means it will give a response, a positive response only if the excitatory weights are more than the inhibitory weights. So for usually in the activation functions to represent threshold, we used to write it using theta. This refers to the threshold value. Okay. So in the MP neuron model, we used to write like this. The threshold theta, it should be greater than NW minus P. That means number of neurons, number of W with positive values, number of weights with positive values minus P. So only then the threshold should be greater than this, and then for the neuron, for the model to fire with a positive response, we should have Kw greater than or equal to theta greater than K minus 1 into W. The output will fire. The output will fire only if it doesn't have a P in the network. Okay, only then the output will fire. Okay, in the slides, several functions are given for this MP neuron and or XR, so and not so many are given. We will take example of and do it. Then we'll move on to the linear separability problem using bias. This doesn't have any bias because this is the earlier network architecture that was developed.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
what is K, ma'am?
K is the number. Number of excitatory input. This N and this K refers to the same only.
And whatever we are learning is unsupervised learning, ma'am. This thing.
This is a basic model, so this is unsupervised, but later on what we are going to do is supervised only. Because in our topic, we are going to discuss now this Hebs network, and then perceptron model, and then backpropagation. All these are supervised. We will be doing unsupervised only in the third unit when we do the autoencoder and LSTM. Only at that time unsupervised will come. So initially we are going to discuss only supervised, and for unsupervised the Hopfield network is there, but that is not covered in our syllabus. The clustering based, how to form the clusters. Usually I think you would have heard about the clustering or segmentation algorithm for grouping the objects. That is basically an unsupervised learning approach. That will come only in the last unit. Okay.
Ma'am, why there is a need for training in supervised? Because we are giving the final output. There is no need to train the images, no, ma'am. Not the images, but the model.
Yeah. The reason why we need to train means, suppose I give an input and then I want this output. Now, for the input given, how the network will learn to give this particular output. Say, for example, I give a letter O like this, and then I give a letter N like this. Okay. Now, I want to differentiate between O and N. I have these two classes. I have to differentiate between O and N. Now, I have to give a pattern, input pattern for this, input pattern for this. Now, to differentiate between these two, the network has to learn, isn't it? To say that this is O and to say that this is N. So how it will learn to say that this is O and to say that this is N? For even a child to make the child to understand the colors or the shapes, we need to first teach. This is red color, this is square, this is rectangle, this is green color, like that. We need to teach first. Then only the child can associate the pattern, what it is seeing, and the auditory, what it is receiving, to match, and then to register in its brain, in the neurons in the brain. It will register that this is red and it appears to me like this. So that way it has to associate in the memory to learn. Every learning process happens like that. Then only later on you show a red color object, it can tell that it is red. Without even knowing what is red, if you ask the color of this, what is this color, or is this red, the child cannot tell this is red, isn't it? Or this is not red, it cannot tell. So to know the pattern of the letters of the image or whatever it is, there is a way in which we give the inputs for these patterns, and then these patterns form a learning rule for the network to associate itself. Then it will start learning. So it depends on how we are going to make the network learn. So after the Hebs rule, we are going to solve a problem on the pattern matching or pattern recognition, or how it learns to differentiate the letters or the patterns. So when we do that, you will become very clear why we need to train. Okay. For the AND network, we know when both the inputs are 1 only, it will give a 1. So our Y in will be X1 into W1 plus X2 into W2. So for the first input, it will give 1 into 1 plus 1 into 1, 2. For the second input, 1 into 1 plus 1 into 0 is 1. Third input, 0 into 1 plus 1 into 1 is 1. Then fourth input, 0 into 1 plus 0 into 1 is 0. So what can be the threshold value for this AND gate? You need a 1 only for the first input, isn't it? So we can set threshold to 2 because for rest of the inputs it should give 0. So wherever this Y in, here Y in is 2, then rest of the places Y in is 1, 1 and 0. So we need a 1 only for the first case. So what we will do is we use a simple threshold activation function. So Y equal to F of Y in, and that is equal to 1 if Y in is greater than or equal to 2, 0 if Y in is less than 2. So to find the threshold, we need to do this, and then you get the threshold 2. So based on the threshold, we define our activation function. This is now our activation function. This is our activation function. So based on the threshold, your theta is 2. So this is a simple model to know to set how to set the threshold and how it can give a output. Now this Y in will be, this is actually the processing element where it will sum up and also it will perform the activation. So in the processing element, it has to do everything. The sum of xi wi plus b also will be done here, and then based on the threshold it has to perform the activation, apply the activation function and give the output. So all the operations takes place in this cell. This is called as a processing element. In short, it is usually written as PE. So this is the processing element where all the activation function inputs and the activation function are being calculated. Okay, so whenever we design a network, neural network, we have to define, or in the design we have to include what could be the activation function necessary. Suppose if I don't want a kind of an activation function like this, if you want a continuous value, then you can give a sigmoid activation function. Or if you want only 0, if you want only 1, then you can give a ReLU activation function. It depends on what kind of output you are expecting. Accordingly, you can set the activation function. Okay, fine. Now let us move on to the linear separability problem. In a similar way, you can look for the MP model for the OR, XOR, everything. Okay, so we'll go on to the linear separability problem using bias also.
Ma'am,
Yeah,
ma'am, after every activation function, we are differentiating the classes, no, ma'am?
yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Actually, it depends on the activation functions. Suppose if this is a very simple model, suppose if I have many neurons, I mean many levels, many layers, then you will have multiple activation functions. That means the diagram, the architecture diagram itself will be different. You have the inputs, and then you have one hidden layer, say hidden layer 1. So here activation function will happen, and that output will go to another hidden neuron. Okay. Here once again you will have an activation function, and then finally you will have one more activation function. So what will happen is you will have something like this. So everywhere you will have input and then the weight. This is, you have to assume everywhere an input, you will have a weight. Say here I start with I. Maybe I will write W1J, W2J, etc. up to WNJ. Everywhere you will have this output will be multiplied by another set of weights, and then you will have one more activation. So in the first hidden layer, the inputs will be multiplied with the weight. You will have one activation function that will give an output. Say last time it gave 0.85, no, using sigmoid. So that one will be multiplied by another weight, and that will be given as an input to this hidden layer neuron, and this will give once again an output, and that will go here. Likewise, all the values will go here. Finally, one more activation function will be applied, and you can get a final output. And in this neural network architecture, the designer has the full freedom to design what activation function can be given at each layer. In this layer, you can set for all the neurons in one layer, one activation function. And in this layer, for all the neurons, you can give one activation function. And for the final one, you can give one activation function. So it can be separate, anything you can give. There is no common activation function for the entire neural network. It could be of your choice, depends on the problem statement that you are trying to address. Okay.
So the bias is also auto-generated, no, ma'am?
It is not auto-generated. We have to give the bias everywhere. We have to give the bias.
Like the model initially doesn't know that we are approaching the target. Once it starts learning, then it should automatically, it should generate, okay, we have to reduce the value here. Okay, we have to increase the value here. So initially, if we give some bias, means there is a possibility that the model may reach somewhere else other than the expected output. So bias should be something like it should, the model itself should train, and it should itself expect the bias.
Okay, you mean to say that the model itself should choose the value for bias than the user giving the value, right?
Yeah, that is how the learning happens, no, ma'am.
Yeah, usually what happens is the model itself will set the weight. Usually the bias will be given as 1 or -1 initially, and then the weights only will be decided by the network automatically. In the learning process, only the weight is changed automatically by the network. Just a second. Usually what happens is the weight only will be decided by the network automatically in an iterative manner, and we will be doing it in an iterative manner such a way that the target value and then the output what it is giving are matching. Till then it will be doing the iteration, and every iteration only the weights are changed, and the changing of weights is only done by the neural network on its own. Okay, and the bias is initially set as 1 or -1. There is no change in the bias value. That will be always 1 or -1 initially set. Usually we will not change the bias value. That is the standard procedure. We will not change the bias value. It is 1 or -1. Only the weight the network will alter by itself. Only when the network output is not matching with the target, it will change the weight to learn in an iterative process. Okay. So now we'll do a linear separable problem using AND and also OR, and we will see how an XOR function is not possible to define using a linear separable line. We will use bipolar inputs. Bipolar means you will have only 1 or -1. There will not be a 0. So I will take x1, x2 and y in terms of 1 and -1. So 1, 1 is 1. -1, 1, -1. 1, -1, -1, then -1, -1 as -1. So what we are going to do is we have to write our x1 and x2 here like this, and then it is going to give a positive response or a negative response. I have x1 minus and x2 minus, okay, plus and minus I have. So based on my output, both x1 and x2 are positive, I get a positive, rest all is negative. So I want to have a linear separable line that separates the response for me. So I will have a line like this. So it will separate the response like this. Okay. So we are going to develop or design a linear separable line like this. It should separate the positive response on one side and negative response on the other side. Suppose if I write my yin as b plus, since I have two inputs, I will write x1 w1 plus x2 w2, and that is my yin. Now, to get the response positive, this should be greater than the, or I can also assume greater than threshold. To get negative, it should be less than threshold. On the line, I will assume equal to 0. On the line, I will assume equal to 0. So b plus x1 w1 plus x2 w2 equal to 0 on the line. Okay. So now let us see how to do a simple solution for this. I take this line and then I keep only the x2 on one side and write rest of the things on the other side. So x2 equal to minus x2 equal to minus b by w2 minus x1 w1 by w2, provided my w2 is not equal to 0. My w2 should not be equal to 0. I will write my x2 equal to minus b by w2 minus x1 w1 by w2. So this should be my equation of a line. So for positive response of the network, this should be greater than 0. That means to get a positive response here, this should be greater than 0. And for rest of this, it should be less than 0. So now I will assume a b value as -1. For the AND alone, I am assuming b as -1. And W1 and W2, W1 and W2 I am assuming as 1. Okay. So now let us try to substitute in this. Let us see what we are getting. So for each case we will substitute in this. So it is -1 plus b is -1. So -1 plus rest all it is 1. So 1 into 1 plus 1 into 1. This will give me -1 plus 2. This will be giving me as 1. And for rest all it will be, this is for the first case. And second case -1 plus 1 into 1 plus 1 into -1. Okay, -1 into 1, and this will be -1. And for third case, it will be -1, 1 into 1 plus -1 into 1, and that is -1. And the last case will be -1 into 1 plus -1 into 1. It is -3. So your y in is giving 1 for the first case. Then for rest of the cases, it is giving minus. Okay. So now what can be our threshold value? By looking at it, we can decide that the threshold can be 1. So any value, if it is getting 1 or above, it can be a threshold so that it will give a positive response. And for rest of the values, it can go here on the negative side. So this is our linear separable line. Okay. So this is how the AND gate can be designed using a simple linear separator line, a simple neuron. And similarly, for the OR gate also, we can work it out. For the OR gate, you have to take B as -1, sorry, +1. For the OR gate, if you take B as +1, you will be getting the logic for the OR gate. You can just try it in 2 minutes time. You can take 2 minutes time and try this. For the R also, you will be choosing the threshold as 1 only, but then for the first 3 you will be getting a 1, for the last one only you will be getting a 0. So in case of R, your B is 1, W1 is 1, W2 is 1. So your X2 will be minus X1 minus B, and that is minus X1 minus 1. So for the first case, you will get a 3, then you will get a 1, 1 and minus 1. So we can decide that the threshold can be greater than 1. So your Y will be f of Y in, it should be equal to 1 if Y in is greater than or equal to 1, 0 if Y in is less than 1. For the first 3 cases, you will be getting a value like this. So in this case, the line can be made like this. You will have plus, plus, plus here, minus here. The separator line will come like this. But in case of XR, what happens is you will get a plus, plus here, minus, minus here. Because in case of XR, only if both the inputs are different, you will have a 1. If both inputs are same, you will have a 0. For 1, 1 and minus 1, you will have 0. Only for the rest of the cases, you will have 1, isn't it? So for XR, you will get output like this. I mean, the responses can be plotted like this. This cannot be solved using a linear separator line. You have to use something like this only. You cannot use a single line to separate this. So is it clear for you all today? I would like to stop here for today's session, and we'll continue on Monday. I will continue on Monday for the HEPS network. So I will be taking next week 2-3 classes for all the numericals, linear separation, HEPS network, and then back propagation, everything. Okay. So we will solve the HEPS rule, and then there are certain formula in which how to update the weight. So 2-3 methods we will try for updating the weights for problems. Okay. So we'll meet on Monday, 3rd hour, and actually this is a 2-hour slot, so you can try the LDA and then even this linear separation and or you can try in Python now. I will stop the recording, but you can try it now.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
on what basis are we choosing the B value? Accuracy, it's based on, am I audible, ma'am?
Yeah, you are audible to me.
B value, how we are choosing, ma'am?
Actually, B value is chosen as 1 or minus 1 only. Here, in this case and or, we have chosen in such a way that it is giving us the output. For the first case alone, it has to give 1. For the rest of the cases, it has to give minus 1, isn't it? So accordingly, we have chosen. This is basically a trial and error. On trial basis only it is done and it is given for you here. But in the exams, in the questions, the B value will be directly given to you. Okay. You need not have to worry about what value to choose for B. B will be given. Usually, this linear separability model is a very basic preliminary model. So here we are taking 1 and minus 1, but in future, whatever network that we are going to discuss, it will be always +1 only. In the back propagation, everywhere, wherever we are going to discuss, the input for B is always chosen as 1. Input on the weight, it is always chosen as 1. Especially in the back propagation, we will consider it as 1 only.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
So any doubts so far? If you have any doubts, you can ask me now, or we can meet on Monday. But you can complete the LDA, and even this linear separation, you can try it in a Python program now. Since it's a 2-hour slot, you can do it now. You can be in the call, yeah?
Ma'am, can you do it for and? So we will do it for or.
Yeah, I have done for and, no?
No, ma'am, in Python I'm saying.
Python, I have to try. I will see if I have some code, I will show. Otherwise, you can try. It's a very simple Python code only. You can try. First, you do the LDA. This, if it is not possible to do today, we can do it next week, Friday also, not a problem. And on Feb 12th, there is a session on Keras and TensorFlow. Friday afternoon, 1:45 to 3:30, we will have a 2 hours session on Keras and TensorFlow. So on Feb 12th, Friday. So I request everybody to refresh the basics and come. We will have a 2-hour slot on Keras and TensorFlow. Okay, Feb 12th. So please make a note.
Basics of what, ma'am?
Python only. Python, you
Okay,
know,
okay.
isn't it?
Yes,
You are
ma'am.
doing in Open Lab and in other courses also. You are solving simple programs. Colabs, I think you all know how to use, isn't it? All of you know Google Colabs, right?
Ma'am taught it yesterday, ma'am.
Yeah, fine. You can practice it and come for the lab on Feb 12th. You can practice and come. Now you can do the LDA.